Hello, this is Jon Speelman with a recap of the sixth round of the Sinquefield Cup in St. Louis, Missouri. It's been a fantastic tournament with very heavy bloodshed, and Carlson in particular has been going up and down. He lost to MVL, didn't he? And then did he beat Caruana or so? He beat one of the two of them the next round. There's so many heavyweight contests that I get confused what's happened. But very, very heavy bloodshed. And this round has certainly been extremely exciting. Yeah, he lost to MVL and beat So. This round, I was watching mainly the first two games. So this was Carlson Nakamura and Caruana against MVL. But Aronian So turned out to be quite exciting as well. So I'm going to start with that. I've actually done less work on that, but I do want to talk about the critical position. It's one of these Vienna-y things, Vienna variation, where it's not the Vienna variation, is it? It's where D takes C4 would be the Vienna, where this is all the rage. And I think Aronian's been doing pretty well with this. B2 takes, and he castles first. And they will most definitely have good reasons for precisely the moves they play. Now, So took immediately. I'm not entirely clear why he didn't go bishop d7 here. Because if bishop takes c4, then you can go bishop takes c3, and you committed white to taking on c4 with the bishop. So I don't know if he dislikes, if there's something he doesn't like about this, but it doesn't seem obvious to me why you wouldn't play bishop d7 first. Anyway, I suppose it might be, no, I can't see a very good reason. He took bishop d7. Bishop c4 is also perfectly playable, but Aronian took with the queen. And they've got a position, it looks quite like a Lasker variation of the Queen's Gambit now. And I don't know, they're doing all this stuff, it's all very complicated. And as I said, I didn't take a huge amount of notice of this until suddenly Aronian had won. And then I started thinking, what's been going on? So Aronian took a very interesting decision here. He took back with the f-pawn. If he takes with the bishop, then the queen will go away. And I suppose you can claim he got bishop v knight, but black is pretty comfortable. So when he takes, he gets the f-file, but he does double his pawns. And, well, there we are. And c5 is a good move, attacking the queen. And he played, if black didn't play e5 now, then white would definitely play e5. White would play e5, probably try to go rook f1, bishop b1, queen c2 or something, and get a big attack. I don't know about the bishop b1, queen c2. Maybe e5, rook f1, queen f2, and white would have a nice position. So black played e5, So played e5. Well, this is a very tense position. Basically, if black can keep control of the position, he has a very good game because of the double pawns. And in particular, if he can get the knight to d6, that's likely to be a very good thing. I had a look at this, and I couldn't find a way, actually. It looks to me as though the dynamic factors of black having to defend f7 and e5 are sufficient that he can't get control. I didn't like c takes d4. It looks like a move you don't want to play because it releases the tension a bit and opens the position slightly, but it might be okay. I looked at, what did I look at? c4, after e5 he must have gone rook f1, presumably. Yeah, he went rook f1, sorry. I've missed that out. So we got to there, and he's hitting f7, of course. And I looked at c4, c takes d4 was played. I looked at c4, bishop b2, rook f8. Queen b4 is a good move. because black would like to play queen e7 to get control, but queen b4 is jolly annoying. And that's really quite important, I think. Rook b to here, but if queen d6, you can go rook here if you like, because queen e5 is not going to be a big problem. Even if white won a pawn, it wouldn't be what he wants. I mean, you don't want an Irish pawn centre, as it's sometimes called. You really don't. After rook c7, black is in great danger of getting the advantage here. So you certainly wouldn't do that. And one line I had was queen d6, rook d8, queen b4. Queen c7 would play for a win. Rook f8 would make a draw, or could offer a draw anyway. Yeah. So then I thought rook g3 instead of, so queen b4, rook here, rook g3, queen d8, and now perhaps rook f5, f6, because you don't mind white taking twice here. It's not ideal, but at the moment queen d2 is happening, so that's not going to happen. White might play h4 and then think about playing an e5, taking on e5, but in general, even if white wins a pawn, that isn't the point. The point is whether white gets his pieces active. And this looks reasonably okay for black, I think. If I'm going to revert now to what actually happened, as I said, I thought that this was the critical position, but when I looked, I didn't find an obvious way to play this, which was good for black. In fact, so took, which is not such a bad idea. It gives him an extra pawn on the queen side, and he played rook b7. And now Aurelian played quite a surprising decision. He played d5. Now this is possible precisely because the rook controls b7, and so you can't go knight to b7 to d6. Sorry, that was meant to come from b7, that diagram, that arrow. If he'd gone rook f8, then d5 would have been a terrible move, because after knight b7 to d6, then black already has the advantage. Once the knight gets to d6, then maybe it's not such a big advantage yet, but he's starting to get control because the knight is wonderful. It attacks the e-pawn and it prevents rook f5. And suddenly black is doing very, very well. So it was precisely because he played rook b7 that d5 was possible. And now he played a fine move, h4, a really good destabilizing move. And black's problem is that if queen e7, rook f7, then white gets too many pawns. He gets f7 and he also gets e5. And as soon as white gets the e5 pawn, then the bishop, which at the moment is a bit hobbled by the pawn on the diagonal, is suddenly going to be freed because you're going to get an e5. Sorry, that circle has nothing to do with anything. Anyway, after h4, queen takes queen e5, black played queen e7, and white played queen g3, and suddenly he has a very serious attack, really. I mean, if f6, which I haven't noticed, I assume he'd go e5, queen takes pawn, queen g6, or he'd certainly think about it. And suddenly all white's pieces are extremely active. There are other things. I'm thinking also e5, queen takes pawn takes bishop to f5 to e6. Also looks interesting. Oh, sorry, there's rook f6. I do apologise. That's just nonsense, isn't it? So that's completely impossible. Right. So f6 just loses to rook f6. I hadn't looked at this. After queen g3, he went queen c5. And actually, the engines already say that white's winning after rook f6, because basically black just doesn't have time to get organised. He can go and attack the bishop, but nobody cares about the bishop here. For instance, if you went queen c3, rook takes pawn, queen takes bishop, then queen h4. Queen h4 wouldn't work, would it? Because then queen takes pawn would check, and queen takes rook would pin the rook. But I guess you can just go rook h4 or something, and terrible things are happening. This rook is on prise. Queen h3 is happening. Of course, sorry, you can just go queen takes rook, can't you? In fact, queen takes pawn check, rook f2, and you're going to win material. It's not absolutely clean, but it's clean enough. So basically, suddenly, Aronian had a huge attack. And this is what happened. g6. If queen takes bishop again, there's queen h4. And he played e5, and so suddenly had to resign. After queen takes bishop, then the engines, like most, is rook h3, teeing up to play queen h4. But queen h4 immediately is absolutely more than enough to win. Because after queen takes pawn with check, I suppose, I'm not sure, h1 or h2, somewhere with the king. Pawn takes rook, queen takes rook check, king g7, queen takes rook. And you've won all of black's pieces, and f7's about to drop off. So an impressive game by Aronian. As I said, I didn't look at it very much beforehand, which is why I was blethering around a bit. But I did look a lot at the other two games, which are Carlsen Nakamura and Caruana Vachier-Lagrave. I think I'll do Caruana first. I'm just going to go and see what's happening to Carlsen, whether he's managing to win, because he had a very good position last time I looked. And, oh yeah, he's doing pretty well. I think he'll probably win that. But we shall see. But I'll get around to that in a minute. But I'm first going to look at the Caruana game. Sorry, copy 2. And that was very interesting for a short period, and then it petered out a bit. This was a poison pawn, but a delayed poison pawn with h6 first. And I'm afraid I know there's plenty of theory on it, but I'm not going to be able to enlighten you about it at all. Now, here we go. So it's a poison pawn. Vachier-Lagrave doing what in his favourite Najdorf, I guess he and perhaps Nakamura are the greatest experts playing the Najdorf nowadays, and Anand may be the greatest expert playing white against it. And yeah, macho move, bishop g5. Queen h6, sorry, and then queen b6. And this position is so sharp that these are completely different positions, with and without h6, bishop h4. And here a3, which of course stops queen b2, knight a4, is much more interesting than without the h6, bishop h4, because the bishop can come to f2. And indeed, bishop f2 is the normal move, but Caruana played queen d3, which looks like it's almost a novelty. It can't be totally a novelty, but it's very close to being. Presumably, I'm assuming that queen b2, rook b1, queen takes, something happens. Though exactly what, I don't know. I'm guessing e5. I guess that this happens. And some sort of general mayhem, which he's analysed, or maybe he's analysed something else, I don't know. But certainly queen takes b2 is a move you'd consider. And but he didn't do it, so we're guessing that Caruana has decided it doesn't work, and he got to castle. And here, I don't know, black could play queen c7 and play chess. But Vachier-Lagrave played a nice thematic move, g5, fighting for the e5 square. Actually, the engines don't like it very much, but I don't think we care very much about what the engines think. Pawn takes pawn. This is actually where I first saw the position. Of course, I looked at, and I wanted to play pawn takes knight, because I love giving up two pieces for a queen, but it doesn't work, I'm afraid. It really doesn't work. So queen d2, like a normal human being. And knight h7, knight d7 is also possible. Sorry, I'm losing my mouse. Knight h7, knight f3. And here I think this is probably a bit inaccurate. I think you should go h4 here at once. And the reason, if g4 you can take, and that's quite a nice structure for white. If he goes rook g8, which is what he played in the game, Then without bishop e2, bishop d7, black is a lot further away from getting castled. And if takes, maybe you should take with the knight, but if bishop takes, bishop e3, takes, queen takes, yes, I'm being attacked by a pussycat. Hello, pussycat, yes. Now, knight g5, maybe it should have gone to f8, I don't know, but queen f2, and black's in big trouble because he can't go bishop d7 because of queen f6. That's the basic problem. With bishop d7, bishop e2, you can just castle and nothing has really happened. Black looks fine. But here, bishop d7, queen f6 is really unpleasant. So I think that probably bishop e2 was inaccurate. And what actually... Sorry, why isn't it No, it's not reverting because I'm not asking it to. Right, but he played bishop e2 first, yeah, which was less accurate. Bishop d7, h4, and now rook g8 is a reasonable move. And now, yes, pussycat, you can sit there. And h5 he played. Now if you play takes and bishop e3, black can, if you go takes, if you do the same thing, no, you can't go there, Ginny. Takes, bishop takes, queen takes, knight g5, and you're going to be able to play long castles in a moment, probably. I'm just trying to work out. I was thinking whether you could go here, takes, knight g5, rook h5, and maybe black. After f6, I was going to try to make something unpleasant happen, and I was wondering if that was going to cause a problem. f6 looks like a weak pawn, and queen d8, maybe queen c5, I don't know, could be unpleasant. So maybe this is still very dangerous. It looks it to me, but these things are quite delicate. If black can get control, he's got a good position. But it looks like he's in quite a lot of danger here. Certainly feels it. Maybe you can get away with queen f6 and rook d7 doesn't work, but I'd be scared, extremely scared. Okay, let's go back anyway. He actually played h5. I guess maybe you take back with the knight anyway there. You'd probably take back this way. It's probably much more sensible because bishop takes somehow was a positional move, but knight takes must be better, yeah. And then you'll just get castle and you'll be fine. So, in fact, what happened was that he played h5, g4, takes, bishop h4, bishop c6, queen e3. And so black's lost a pawn, but got a very compact position, and the queen's come off. And this h5 pawn is close enough to the king side and to black's king that actually it isn't a big threat. And they played some positional moves now. That's a good move. King e3, of course. And here, Vachier-Lagrave offered a draw, and Caruana accepted, because although white's a pawn up, his position's pretty rank apart from that. The knight in g5 is magnificent. The rook is tied to the h pawn, because if it moves, black can take the bishop and take the pawn, and so black is absolutely fine. I don't know what you'd play here. You can play rook h2, rook h6, rook h1 if you like, but not much else. So this was quite a violent game, which and if you play e takes f5, knight f3 and recaptures the black bishop's fantastic. This was quite a violent game, but in the end it petered out. Now the other game, which I'm just getting to, is the Caruana-Nakamura game, and that had an absolutely fascinating bit in the middle with extreme violence. And we'll see how he's doing. I thought he had pretty good chances of winning the last time I looked. Sorry, copy one. And we shall see. We'll get to the that's the position as we speak. and clearly it is not much fun. Sorry, my mouse is playing up. Here we are. Let's have. This is the position as we speak, and obviously White has good winning chances. I don't know if he's going to win or not. That's another question entirely. But Nakamura is suffering. Now, in the opening, we'll go back. It was a Queen's Gambit with Bishop F4. The old move C5 rather than Knight BD7, which they've played a lot of recently. And Carlsen did this one, just taking. And they normally take back. I think they used to go King F1 or King E2, well, one or t'other. I think King F1. But Knight D2's been being played recently. Castles. Bishop E7, Knight, Rook C1, Bishop F6, Knight F3. And that's possible because there's a Bishop H7 check hit. If you take on B2, then Bishop H7 is always Queen C2 check. And this is not at all fun for black because the weakened king side is quite a serious matter. This is clearly better for white. If you don't take the bishop, then presumably something absolutely appalling happens. So, yeah, I mean, if King H8, well, there's probably Bishop B1, I would think. Bishop takes Rook. No, I don't know. Maybe you just have to move the Rook and take the black squared bishop, but it certainly isn't good. This is what I'd want to play. I'm looking at Knight G5, G6. I don't know, Knight takes F7 check and Bishop takes G6. Screams out a little bit, but it doesn't matter. I mean, White has a very good game anyway. So now he played Queen E7, excuse me. I think Queen E7's a mistake. I think you should play G6 at once. And this probably matters quite a lot because it changes the tactics really quite a lot that now you really are threatening B2, I think. I think Queen E7 was wrong. I mean, because if you protect this pawn, Bishop B5, which is what Carlsen did in the game, Bishop takes B2. Now I think Bishop C6 you can take in C1. This makes a big difference. So he's probably going to go Rook C2, Bishop here, I think, to control that square is quite a good idea. Takes. I was wondering about Knight D4 in this position, but actually you can, with the bishop and F6 controlling E7, you can play Bishop C6 here. Here, Queen E8, Rook E1, Queen E4, and black's very active, or Bishop C4. And black's extremely active and should be, I don't know, Knight A5 that you might play here to annoy the bishop, but it looks as though while white's trying to win a pawn, black will get enough activity. I guess you would go here now, almost certainly, because you need to take that bishop. It's a huge bishop in C4. If you leave the bishop in C4, there's no way you're better. But does Queen E7 seem to lose a move? And it also actually put the queen in a somewhat worse square. So Queen E7, H3. Oh, by the way, I wondered about Bishop G4 as well. But after H3, Bishop H5, if you don't play Bishop H5, you're going to be a bit worse. Then there's this excellent move. And this is quite unpleasant. And let me just find my notes again. I can't find my notes at the moment. Wait a minute. Move 16. Yeah, wait a minute. Move 14. Here we are. Rook C5, Knight B4. There's a long line that goes Knight B4, Bishop B2. Now you take it, which looks very odd. But the point is that you can't play Queen B6 yet because of Rook B5. So you have to move this guy. Queen to here. Now you do a bit of dancing, if you want to, and go Bishop D8, Rook here. And what happens now? Rook D6. I mean, this is a computer line, but it's also, it probably is what's actually happening in the position. Rook D6, Bishop C7, A3, Bishop takes, now knight c6 presumably. Bishop f8, rook f8, queen d5, queen b2, queen c5. And this is clearly better for white. The bishop is better than the knight, and both of these queenside pawns are vulnerable. And I know that's a very long line, but it sort of refutes bishop g4, h3, bishop h5. And I imagine people have analysed that. So anyway, he played queen e7, which I don't like. H3, g6. So now he is threatening to take this guy, but Carlsen played bishop b5. And bishop takes b2 is interesting here. Nakamura didn't do it. My first thought was that he was going to go rook c2, bishop back, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight d4. But that's similar to the other line, perhaps even transposes, and doesn't seem to be much good. But this is a much better move, and this seems to give white the advantage. Because if you go bishop takes rook, then... Sorry, bishop takes d5, I believe. And now, if bishop b2, there's the big hit, bishop d6, with the dominant position. You get the exchange and have this huge bishop. So you go bishop a3, but then this is a move. Sorry, excuse me, bishop a3. Bishop a3. But now bishop h6 has the huge threat of queen to d4 or a1. So it wins the exchange back, and white's going to have at least some advantage. I think you'd probably go bishop... You can't go bishop e6. Oh, you can go bishop e6, yeah, because then queen d4, f6. But you do that. You go bishop d6, queen d4, forcing f6, which has weakened this king's position. And you can... bishop takes f8, king takes f8, I think he wants to go. Bishop takes, queen takes, rook d1 with a clear advantage for white. Basically, black's king side is quite bad. The knight has squares, although black has has an extra pawn on the queen side. This is very, very uncomfortable for black because of the weaknesses, because the knight can hop around. So that was interesting. And he went bishop d7, and then now got to another very complicated tactical line. Bishop takes b2 takes and f5, which was obviously Nakamura's idea. Well, now Carlsen played bishop g5, and all the pieces on the board are on prise. But it's very interesting. When I showed it to an engine, it really liked this line. Queen to here, bishop takes rook, and just bishop a4. Bishop a3, because you have to really, bishop b3. So white's the exchange down, a whole exchange down, but knight g5 is happening in a lot of positions. And it turns out that black can't stabilize this, which is absolutely unobvious to me. I mean, this is one of the things the engines do much better than we do. And it just turns out that there's no way to stabilize this position without returning the exchange. So rook a c8, for instance. I mean, I didn't check all lines. Oh, one move you can play is b5, actually, to give you a bishop of c4 square. But then knight g5, bishop c4, takes, queen b5, and you're taking this or going to d5. And apparently bad things are happening. It's not very obvious. You think, can you get away with h6, check, king h8, but... Oh, it's very... I can believe that bad things happen. There'll be a knight e6. You've got all pieces all over the place. It's not very clear to me, actually, but if an engine tells me it's good for white, I will believe it. You know, I'm prepared to trust it in this. And if we go back, rook a c8 is the other move you can play, and I have a line that goes rook d1, and you just got knight g5 happening at all sorts of nasty moments. And And apparently this is really unpleasant. It's not obvious. It really isn't obvious. But if I'm told it's true, I'll believe it. For instance, if you go rook d8, I mean, one thing I can see is that if rook d8 takes knight g5, takes, and of course if king to here you have this check. Oh, you have knight f7 actually as well. But okay, so what actually happened was that Carson played bishop g5, and almost all the pieces on the board are on prise at this point, and they started hoovering, really, both of them. That's sort of normal. It's normal that when something's on prise, it's a desperado. So what's happened after all of this is that white's a pawn up, but the a2 pawn is weak, and probably black should be okay, but Nakamura went rook b8, a4. Now I think he should have gone rook b4, bishop c6, rook here. Engine seems to like rook takes pawn, check, king up, rook over. Perhaps black is active enough here, though it doesn't look much fun to me at all. What actually happened was that they exchanged the queenside pawns. And they got to here. And this is really not fun for black at all. I mean, who knows? They got to this rook ending where white is a pawn up, and if we copy again, let's copy the game again and just see where they've got to. So they got to there, and this must be pretty close, but maybe black can defend. I don't know. I mean, the things I see are that rook to here, check here, check here, here. You have to set up a check from the flank, and I don't know. Maybe you can go. I don't know if rook f6 check is a good idea, followed by e5. There seem to be a lot of flank checks, and then checks from the flank. And I'm guessing it might be defensible, but it might not. I really don't know. And I mean, there'll be an engine assessment, but it's of no importance, really. The position is either winning or not. And let's copy it again. Has he just gone rook a1? And what does rook a1 do? Is that a move that's saying, play a move, Mishko? I suppose it is. Is he saying that he's in Zugzwang? That is very extraordinary, if true. I mean, the thing is that if you go to b7, you get in king d6, which is certainly conceivably a problem, though maybe not enough. And certainly if you go king g7, king e6 is a very bad idea. Sorry, go to the end. And king e7, I'd be scared of either rook f1 or h5. I'm thinking as white that I want to try to get rook f1 would worry me a bit. Perhaps trying to go rook f1, rook f6, and then h5. I think it's probably drawable, but I'd say it's about 50-50 whether Carlsen wins it or not. Maybe 40-60 that Nakamura will draw. So Nakamura perhaps has more drawing chances than Carlsen has of winning. Anyway, he'll be torturing him for a while now, and by the time you watch this, depending when it goes out, the torture may or may not have resulted in the full point. So a fantastic round. The other two games were drawn, and I think that's enough, really. There was, yeah. So if Carlsen wins this, he'll join NVL in the lead. I don't think he will, but we shall see. Okay, well, it's been a fantastic tournament, and let's hope it continues to be so.